evening. This is Newsnight. I'm Dana Levinson.
I'm Kenza Martin.
I'm Carlos Millán.
And I'm Christy Reynolds.
All right, let's start it off with the Grammys. Last night was the 51st Annual Grammy Awards. They aired live last night on CBS from Staples Center in Los Angeles. And the award show was full of surprises. Just 90 minutes before the start of the show, Grammy nominees Chris Brown and longtime girlfriend Rihanna separately bowed out of their performances with their whereabouts unknown. What is known is that 19-year-old Chris Brown was being investigated at the time for an alleged assault of an unidentified woman who showed bruises and other visible injuries as a result of her attack. An amazing performance by Al Green of his song Let's Stay Together, along with stars like Justin Timberlake, Boyz II Men, Keith Urban replaced the spot of the two absent performers. An emotional Jennifer Hudson won her first Grammy Award and the first of the evening for Best R&B Album, thanking her family in heaven and those who are with her today. Other winners included everyone's favorite Lil Wayne, who was awarded 4 times, including one for Best Rap Album. Robert Plant and Alison Krauss won Record of the Year, and Coldplay was awarded Song of the Year for their hit Viva La Vida. And another one for all you Blink-182 fans out there, the guys did announce that they are back in action and will be recording music that will be coming out soon.
Shifting to politics, during his campaign for the presidency, Barack Obama promised change in many different areas. One of those was foreign policy. But for the first time late last week, it appears that his promise of change in foreign policy will materialize. Vice President Joe Biden attended a security conference held in Munich, Germany, and he delivered a keynote address. The focus of his speech was the new direction that the Obama administration hopes to take U.S. foreign policy. Biden made it very clear that he hopes to improve relations with Russia. He hopes that by improving relations with Russia, both countries will be able to reduce tension that they've had over the NATO military alliance, and he hopes that by working together, they will both be able to improve the situation in Afghanistan. Representatives from the Russian government said that although they are pleased with this announcement, they are optimistic about working with the new administration, but there is still a long way to go before all the tension can be pushed aside.
Okay, and now an update on the salmonella issue. According to the FDA, the Georgia Peanut Corporation of America tested positive for salmonella in their peanuts. Then they retested and it came out negative that there was no salmonella in the peanuts. They distributed the peanuts, and then there was 500 cases of illness and 8 deaths due to the peanuts. Now, I was reading this story when I was eating a bag of Nutter Butters, and it really scared me. But it's really an issue that's going on now, and even if you notice in the cafeteria, they have all the signs that say may contain peanuts, and a lot of people are allergic to peanuts. And now with the salmonella issue going on, it's pretty scary that you have to watch out what you eat. Yeah. So be careful.
Well, back to politics. The Senate is expected to vote today on the $827 billion stimulus package presented by President Barack Obama. This bill is $7 billion increase from the bill recently passed by the House of Representatives. This includes higher tax cuts and less money for states to spend. This package is set to pass with only 3 Republican votes. That's if they get all of the Democratic votes. Now, it's more good news for students because both the House and the Senate bill call for the largest ever funding increase for Pell Grants, which is the government's chief college aid program for low-income students. The House bill calls for $79 billion and the Senate calls for $39 billion in order to prevent cuts to local school districts and public higher education institutions, schools like us at SUNY Albany. Although it has not been decided how the money will be divided between elementary and higher education, along with a portion of things not going to things related to education.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that should be good, especially with the tuition increase. I know everyone's pretty concerned about, prices for school if everyone can afford.
Yeah,
I'd be really grateful.
Vacation.
If tuition went down, I'd be so grateful.
It really would be great. We'll see what happens with that. But it does turn out that A-Rod, too, has jumped on the juicer bandwagon, along with Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, as Sports Illustrated has reported Saturday morning that Yankee third baseman Alex Rodriguez tested positive for anabolic steroids while playing for the Texas Rangers in 2003. Now, ironically, this was the same year that he won the American League home run title and MVP award. During the testing that was done by the Major League as a survey to see if random drug tests should be mandatory, there were no penalties for a positive result, and the results were to be kept confidential. Unfortunately, The news leaked out. The Major League Baseball Players Association issued a statement Saturday afternoon that information and documents relating to the results of the 2003 Major League Baseball testing program are both confidential and sealed by court orders.
Shifting back to President Obama's plans for U.S. foreign policy, when he was on the campaign trail, he said one of his priorities was to improve relations with Iran. Well, now it appears that the political landscape of Iran might change. Former President Mohammad Khatami, who really tried to improve relations with the West when he was in office from 1997 until 2005, announced yesterday that he will be running as a candidate in Iran's presidential elections, which will be held in June. And many of you might be aware that the current Iranian president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, has created a lot of controversy during his tenure in office, making very violent comments about Israel. Now, so it's very possible that if Ahmadinejad is defeated by Khatami, that relations with Iran will improve. However, many analysts are saying that the Obama administration might wait to see the result of the June presidential election before actually starting to resume diplomatic relations with Iran. So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
And now a shocking and rather sickening story. An 18-year-old girl, Sequoia Williams, realized that she was pregnant 23 weeks along in the pregnancy. She went to an abortion clinic, and the doctor there's name was Dr. Renalik, and she was going to receive an abortion, and they gave her some pills and some paperwork and told her to come back. The following day she came back and she was very ill. She ended up actually giving premature birth to her child right there in the abortion clinic. Now the doctor wasn't present at the time, but the staff members were. And right in front of Sequoia Williams, they took the baby and put it in a biohazard bag and put the baby in the trash. They then administered a shot to Sequoia Williams and she passed out. She woke up a few hours later and she had no idea really what happened. She was very disoriented. A few days later, an anonymous call came into the police office saying that what had happened, the murder of a child. They obtained 2 search warrants. They did not find anything. On the 3rd search warrant, they found the baby in a box in the closet of the abortion clinic, and they tied it to Sequoia Williams. The baby actually had air in its lungs, so the baby was alive. It was not a stillborn. And now Dr. Renalik actually, he forged some of the paperwork regarding the case, and he got his license revoked. And now Sequoia Williams is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's really just a sickening case. And
so the child was alive?
It was alive. There was actually air in the child's lungs. And nowadays, I mean, premature babies can survive. They have incubators and so many technologies that a premature child can survive. And the fact that they actually killed it, you know, in general and in front of the mother is just, it's crazy.
I can imagine it's going to be a source for debates, considering like the fact that she was in an abortion clinic and she was going to have an abortion and her baby was born, but then it died. I mean, I can see that being the source for a debate. It's probably going to be a very long trial.
Definitely. I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, and some more not very pleasant news. A series of wildfires in Australia has killed 108 people in the southern state of Victoria. 750 homes, making up 2 entire towns, were destroyed, as well as 770 square miles of farmland. Police suspect the fires were set deliberately, but winds at 62 miles per hour and the temperatures peaking at 117 degrees further spread the blaze. The death toll is expected to rise as emergency crews continue to go through the wreckage. In Australia's oil-rich eucalyptus forest, it makes it vulnerable during these lightning storms. And with the prolonged drought and the searing temperatures this weekend, worsen the conditions considerably. So yeah, considering it's summer for them, even in the summer at 117 degrees, it's really hot. I know. I mean, and it's a perfect concoction for these wildfires, and hence
it's very dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes me happy to be in freezing cold Albany.
I'm still waiting for spring to come.
A friend of mine is actually studying abroad in Australia right now, so it's actually pretty scary that there's all the wildfires. I hope
she must be pretty nervous to be
She is actually really nervous, so I'm hoping that it's far away from her.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next we do see that actions have consequences, and especially for Michael Phelps. As reported last week, the Olympic swimmer was caught smoking marijuana out of a bomb, and this week the U.S. Olympic Committee wants to give Phelps a course that will remind him what good behavior is. The CEO of the U.S. Olympic Committee, Jim Scher, has expressed that he would like to have a meeting with Phelps in order to avoid a repeat of the situation. Although the U.S. Olympic Committee is unable to penalize an athlete who tests positive for marijuana, while they are no longer competing or training for the Olympics. And that's good news for him, because considering that Phelps has really suffered plenty of penalization within the last week. Starting on Thursday, Phelps' biggest sponsor, the Kellogg Food Company, stated that it would no longer be renewing its contract with the swimmer that expires at the end of February. They've quoted, "Michael's most recent behavior is not consistent with the image of Kellogg." And I have to say that I agree. Then also on Thursday, the USA Swimming Organization suspended Phelps for the next 90 days. And for that means for the next 3 months, they will be withdrawing their monthly $1,750 financial support to the athlete. It's hard times for Michael Phelps, it looks like.
Yes, I guess to get their point, they hit him in the pocket, and that's always going to work.
Definitely.
Speaking of financial difficulties, Japanese auto manufacturer Nissan announced today that they will be cutting 20,000 jobs around the world in order to reduce costs, and also because people aren't buying as many cars as they used to. The job cuts will begin in March of 2009 and will continue until March of 2010 and will be affecting plants all over the world. Now, they're expected to generate a net loss of $2.9 billion for this financial year, so that's really quite a hit for them. And basically this decision has been very unpopular in Japan, and some analysts are basically saying that because Nissan is cutting back on jobs, their cars may become less popular in Japan and around the world as well. But it's interesting that General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler, it's not just the U.S. auto industry that's hurting now, it's really spreading everywhere.
Very true. And now a story of bad luck or just a lack of common sense. About 150 people were ice fishing on Lake Erie, Ohio, and the ice floe actually broke away from the land, leaving 150 people stranded on the ice. Immediately after the ice floe broke away, one person fell off the ice and actually died, and leaving another person critically injured. It took $25,000 to save these people between the Coast Guards and volunteer firefighters. The sheriff of Ohio actually made a statement saying that these people, quote, should have known better. And if there was a code in the law saying that common sense was against the law, they would have made 150 arrests. Although the sheriff was very remorseful about the death, he was outraged at the fact that these people were so far out on the ice. Now, because of the rigid winter, the ice has been so much thicker on Lake Erie, so the people thought it would be fine to go all the way out there and ice fish, but they were wrong. And it cost a lot of money. It put Coast Guards and volunteer firefighters and men's lives at risk, and one person died. So it was really just a bad story.
I wouldn't be surprised if they had to pay reparations. All 150 of them paid $250,000.
I know.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
And in some more national news, legal challenges from sex offenders may actually prevent an aggressive federal effort to track sex offenders. The possible law will require all states to adopt strict standards for registering sex offenders and prevent them from escaping authorities by moving out of state. It is estimated that 100,000 sex offenders no longer live where they are registered. State officials claim that the law's cost will exceed the cost of the state's existing law, which they claim are also more effective. They claim that the law may also violate the state's right to set their own policy and therefore are unconstitutional. Yeah, so I know you can go online and find out where a sex offender lives, but if they move, then it defeats the purpose of that.
Exactly.
So it's definitely scary. Wow. And finally, we have a public announcement for all of you out there who are writers. The Albany Student Press will be holding a general interest meeting on Tuesday, February 10th at 9 p.m. in the ASP office, which is in the Campus Center 326. I believe that's on the 3rd floor. At the meeting, they will be discussing what's new with the paper and how to become involved. I personally am a copy editor for the newspaper, and I really do recommend that everyone who has any interest in writing should get out there. Currently, they're looking for writers and photographers, and many editor positions will be open at the end of the semester, which is something that's great to put on your resumes. Please email Ted Bean or Chris Mueller at asponline@hotmail.com with any questions that you have. I encourage all of you to get out there and write about the news.
In general, support all your student groups like ATV who brings you these programs.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right. Well, that's all we have for tonight. Have a great evening and have a great morning tomorrow. This has been Newsnight. I'm Dana Levinson.
I'm Kenza Martin.
I'm Carlos Miguel.
And I'm Christy Reynolds. Have a great night.